chosen ones, 5 signs you were born to walk between light and darkness. There are moments in life when you look around and realize this world was never built for you. You tried to fit in, to blend with the crowd, to laugh at their jokes, to walk their path, but something always felt off. Not wrong necessarily, just foreign, like you were dropped into a story that didn't match the script written in your soul. And maybe you've asked yourself, what's wrong with me? But what if that very question is the key? What if nothing is wrong with you and everything is right, so right that the world doesn't know what to do with you? That's the mark of the chosen ones, not the ones who have it all figured out, but the ones who feel so deeply, so wildly, that they walk between worlds, between the light and the dark, between heaven and hell, between what is and what could be. Let me ask you something. Have you ever felt a pull toward both the sacred and the profane, like you're capable of immense love, compassion, and light, but also haunted by shadows that whisper in the night? That duality isn't a flaw, it's a sign. The first sign. The chosen ones are not all light. They are forged in both realms. They carry the codes of contrast, because without darkness, light is blind, and without light, darkness becomes a void. You were born to walk between them, not to pick a side, but to understand both, to embody both, to bring healing through the integration of opposites.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound spiritual lesson.
From a young age, you probably noticed things others didn't. Maybe you saw energies, maybe you felt emotions that weren't yours, maybe you just knew things, truths that no one had taught you, and maybe that gift terrified you, because no one around you could validate it. Instead, they told you to stop being dramatic, to stop feeling so much, to stop imagining things. But it wasn't imagination, it was perception. You weren't delusional, you were awake. And that's the second sign. Chosen ones have heightened awareness, not just of this world, but of the worlds behind the veil. They sense pain in others even when it's hidden. They feel the energy of a room before a word is spoken, and they carry the weight of that knowing, sometimes silently, because they think no one else can understand. But here's the secret: others can understand. They're just scattered, hidden, waiting like you. And maybe that's why you're here now, because some part of your soul knew it was time to find resonance, to remember, to reconnect with the mission you always carried but never fully unpacked. You see, the third sign of a chosen one is exile, not necessarily physical exile, but spiritual exile, a sense of being the outsider, even when surrounded by people, a feeling of watching the world live on the surface while you drown in the depths. You've probably lost friends without understanding why. You've probably had people walk away from you right when you needed them most. That's not random, that's refinement. The universe isolates chosen ones not to punish them, but to prepare them, because the path you walk is not one of popularity, it's one of purpose. And purpose demands solitude before it allows service. Let's go deeper. Have you ever felt like your life has been harder than it needed to be? Like you've been thrown challenge after challenge, heartbreak after heartbreak, more than what seems fair? That's not bad karma. That's initiation. Chosen ones don't get easy lives. They get meaningful ones. Lives that break them open so they can become vessels for something greater. That's the fourth sign. Your suffering wasn't meaningless. It was sculpting you. Every betrayal taught you to see through masks. Every loss taught you to find strength in surrender. Every fall taught you how to rise, not as who you were, but as who you were meant to be. Pain is the chiseling of the soul, and chosen ones are carved deeply so they can hold more light. But perhaps the most profound sign is this: despite all the pain, all the confusion, all the abandonment, you still care, you still love, you still want to help, you still believe in something greater. That's not weakness, that's your power. Because the final sign of a chosen one is the refusal to close the heart, even when it's been shattered, even when the world says it's naive. You've kept it open. Maybe not fully, maybe guarded, but still alive. And that is the key to walking between light and darkness. Not to become numb, but to feel everything and still choose love. Still choose truth. Still choose to stand in the fire and say, I will not be consumed. I will become the flame. You were born to carry codes that this world forgot. Codes of balance, of spiritual warriorship, of divine contradiction. You are not just here to heal others, you're here to embody the reconciliation of opposites, to be both the healer and the wounded, the guide and the lost, the storm and the calm, because only by holding both can you lead others back to wholeness. This is not a path for the faint of heart. It's a path for those who have walked through hell and come back with heaven in their eyes. That's you. That's why you've always felt different. That's why you've always been called, not to escape the world, but to transform it. Now, I want to ask you something that may shake you. What if the very things you've hated about yourself were the exact keys to your divine purpose? What if your darkness wasn't a flaw but a map, a language, a sacred initiation into the realm of the real? Because in the next part of this journey, we're going to dive into exactly that. We'll explore how to not just recognize your gifts, but use them. How to activate your energy, protect your soul, and fulfill the mission you've always carried in your DNA. The hidden power of your shadows, unlocking the gifts buried in darkness. What if the parts of yourself you were taught to hide were never meant to be buried? What if the anger, the fear, the desire, the sadness, what if all of it was sacred? That's not what we're conditioned to believe. We're taught to chase light, to present only our polished selves, to bury anything that doesn't look divine. But here's the truth most people never tell you. Your shadow is not your enemy. It's your teacher. It's not here to destroy you. It's here to complete you. And chosen ones, especially those who walk between light and darkness, are called to a different kind of mastery, not the kind that floats above suffering, but the kind that dives into it, retrieves the gold, and rises with it in hand. The darkness is not evil. That's a lie used to keep you disconnected from your own power. The darkness is the womb. It's the void from which all creation emerges. It's the space before the first breath, the stillness before the sound. And your shadow, the accumulation of everything you've been told is too much, too weird, too intense, is the gateway to your most authentic self. You cannot shine fully until you integrate what you've tried to hide. This is why many chosen ones feel stuck. They try to embody their light while secretly rejecting their depth. But what you reject within will always sabotage what you try to build externally. So the real work begins with reconciliation, with turning inward and asking, what parts of me have I banished and why? Let me tell you something that might sting. Your greatest spiritual gifts are buried underneath the very emotions and memories you've tried to avoid. The trauma you've labeled as weakness is actually a portal. The rage you've suppressed is raw, unchanneled power. The grief you've been drowning in is a sacred cleansing, a breaking open of the heart that allows divine truth to enter. But you can't access these gifts if you keep pretending they're not there. You must sit with them, not from a place of judgment, but curiosity, not to fix them, but to listen. Because the shadow doesn't need healing, it needs integration. It needs to be seen, held, and loved back into wholeness. Have you ever wondered why you keep attracting the same kind of pain, the same kind of people, the same kind of situations, the same internal battles? That's not a coincidence. That's your shadow trying to get your attention. It's not punishing you, it's repeating itself because it hasn't been heard. And every time you ignore it, the pattern gets louder. But when you finally turn toward it, when you look it in the eyes and say, I'm ready to know you, something incredible happens. The energy that was once stuck begins to move. The pain that once controlled you becomes a compass. The fear that once paralyzed you becomes fuel. This is the alchemy of the chosen ones. The ability to turn darkness into light without losing the truth of either. You were not born to be half of yourself. You were born to be whole, and that means reclaiming every fragment, every childhood wound, every shameful secret, every moment of collapse, not to dwell in it, but to liberate it, to release the energy trapped inside it. Because beneath those layers is your raw, unfiltered power. And when you integrate your shadow, you become magnetic, you become clear, you become dangerous. Not in a destructive way, but in the way a warrior is dangerous. Fully aware, deeply grounded, impossible to manipulate. That's what the world needs now. Truth. Not performative light. Not spiritual bypassing, but real embodied presence. So how do you start? You begin by getting honest. Brutally, beautifully honest. You stop running from your feelings. You stop pretending to be okay when you're not. You stop trying to be enlightened and start being real. Sit in the discomfort. Let it speak. Journal it. Scream it. Cry it. Dance it, paint it, meditate with it, but don't ignore it. Because what you suppress becomes your cage, and what you embrace becomes your key. This path isn't easy. That's why so few walk it. But you're different. You didn't come here for easy. You came here to remember, and remembering requires descent. Into the body, into the past, into the places where your light was once extinguished, because that's where your mission is hidden. That's where your medicine is stored. And when you retrieve it, when you stand in the middle of your own darkness and refuse to flinch, you become unstoppable. Not because you're perfect, but because you're whole. So, I'll ask you something deeper now. Are you willing to love the parts of yourself that no one else clapped for? Are you willing to see beauty in your brokenness, power in your pain, truth in your tears? Because that willingness is the doorway. The world doesn't need more perfect people. It needs more whole people. People who have walked through fire and emerged with grace. People like you. In the next part, we will dive into how to protect your energy as a chosen one, how to set spiritual boundaries, and how to walk in both realms without losing yourself. Because once you've reclaimed your power, you must learn how to protect it. This is where we begin building the inner temple that no illusion can shake. The sacred armor, protecting your energy while walking between worlds. Once you begin to awaken, once you've dared to look into the mirror of your own darkness and retrieve the gold buried beneath your pain, something begins to shift. Not just inside you, but around you. You start to attract energy, all kinds of energy. Some beautiful, affirming, divinely orchestrated, others not so much. The deeper truth is that when you begin walking between the realms of light and darkness, you also begin to glow, not in a metaphorical, Instagram-filtered way, but energetically. To those who can see, you emanate a frequency that shakes the illusion, and to those who are still asleep, that frequency is either magnetic or threatening. That's why it becomes absolutely essential to learn how to protect your energy, not from a place of fear, but from a place of sacred responsibility. You see, chosen ones aren't just sensitive, they are receptive, open channels. And when you're open, you're not just receiving divine downloads, you're also exposed to the noise, the projections, the emotional toxins that others unconsciously broadcast. If you've ever felt completely drained after being around certain people, if you've ever walked into a room and felt like something invisible just wrapped itself around your chest, if you've ever absorbed sadness, anger, or fear that wasn't yours, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Energy is real, and your aura, your field, is your first line of defense. But most of us were never taught how to maintain it. We were taught to guard our hearts emotionally, but not spiritually. To look both ways before crossing the street, but not to cleanse our energy after being in a crowd. That's what we're going to change right now. The first and most important step is to recognize your energetic sovereignty. Your energy is yours. No one has the right to access or influence it without your permission. And yet, most people give away their energy constantly, through people-pleasing, over-giving, absorbing emotions, or simply not saying no. The sacred no is one of your most powerful tools. It's not a rejection of love, it's a container for it. You can't pour from an empty vessel, and you certainly can't walk between realms if you're being pulled in 1,000 directions by attachments that don't serve your path. So ask yourself, where am I leaking energy right now? Who am I giving to out of guilt instead of love? What boundaries have I been afraid to set because I didn't want to be seen as selfish? These aren't small questions. They're the foundation of your sacred armor. Next, understand the power of intention. Every morning, before you even check your phone or open your eyes fully, set your field. Visualize light surrounding you, gold, white, violet, whatever feels powerful to you. Feel it wrapping around you like a cloak, not to hide you, but to amplify and protect your essence. Speak it out loud if you can. Only energies of truth, love, and divine alignment may enter my space today. Your voice is a frequency weapon. Use it. You can also call in guides, ancestors, or higher aspects of yourself to walk with you. Remember, you are never alone, but you must invite support. Spirit honors your free will. Now let's talk about energetic hygiene. Just like you shower to clean your physical body, your energy needs cleansing, especially if you're doing deep spiritual work or interacting with many people. Water is powerful. baths with salt, showers with intention, even washing your hands while visualizing energy being released. Burn herbs if that's your thing, sage, palo santo, mugwort. Use sound, singing bowls, chimes, or even your own voice, and most of all, rest. Sleep is not just for the physical body. When we sleep, our spirit recalibrates. But if your energy is chaotic, your sleep won't restore you. Create sacred space before bed. Turn off the noise. Protect your dreams. Declare your sleep space as a temple, a sanctuary. But even with all this, there's one more layer: discernment. As chosen ones, we often feel obligated to help everyone, to heal, guide, support, uplift. And while that's beautiful, it can also become dangerous if it's not rooted in discernment. Not everyone wants to be healed. Not everyone is ready. Some people will unconsciously drain you, not because they're evil, but because they haven't learned to generate their own light. And if you're not careful, you'll mistake their need for your purpose. That's how burnout happens. That's how resentment creeps in. You are not here to save anyone. You are here to stand in your light so powerfully that it awakens the light in others. That's it. Sometimes that means helping. Sometimes that means walking away. Sometimes that means letting people fall so they can rise on their own. Love doesn't always look like a hug. Sometimes love looks like space. So I ask you now, are you willing to protect your light as fiercely as you protect your loved ones? Are you willing to honor your energy like the sacred force it is, even if it means disappointing people who were never meant to walk your path? Because the truth is, your energy is your message. Your vibration speaks before your words. And if your field is heavy, chaotic, or filled with things that don't belong to you, your light becomes distorted, not because you're broken, but because you've been too open to everything. This path requires clarity, not perfection, not isolation, but clarity. When you're clear, you become a mirror that reflects truth. And that's what the world needs now more than ever. Mirrors that don't distort, but reveal. You've done the shadow work. You've reclaimed your power. Now it's time to guard it, to walk with it like a warrior walks with a sword, not to harm, but to protect. Not to dominate, but to honor. In the final part, we're going to explore your mission, why you were chosen in the first place, what it means to walk between worlds, not just as a survivor, but as a leader, a lighthouse, a living bridge between heaven and earth. Because once you've remembered, reclaimed, and protected your energy, the only thing left is to embody it. The living bridge, fulfilling your mission as a chosen one in a sleeping world. There comes a moment on every sacred path when the inner work becomes outer action. When all the healing, all the remembering, all the tears and revelations and quiet nights of questioning begin to shape you into something new. Not just a seeker, not just a survivor, but a living bridge. A presence that walks between realms not for novelty, but for purpose. You don't just carry light anymore, you are the light. You don't just witness darkness, you understand it, speak its language, and move through it with grace. And now your mission begins to crystallize. You realize you were never just here to heal yourself. You were here to become the medicine. The world is asleep in more ways than one. Not just in its systems, not just in its institutions, but in its spirit. So many walk through life on autopilot, disconnected from their soul, numbed by distractions, sedated by comfort. they've forgotten the sacred, forgotten that they are more than bodies and goals and routines, forgotten that the divine lives in every breath. And that's where you come in, not to wake them up with noise or judgment, but with presence, with frequency, by simply being what they forgot they could be. That is the power of the chosen ones. They don't preach, they embody. And in doing so, they create openings, vibrational doorways that others can walk through when they're ready. Your mission is not a job title, it's not a label or a role. It's a vibration, a way of showing up, a way of holding space so deeply that others feel safe enough to remember who they are. That might look like teaching, creating, guiding, parenting, leading, or simply living with such radical authenticity that your very existence becomes a transmission. And yes, it's lonely sometimes. Yes, it's exhausting. Yes, it's tempting to shrink back into the comfort of forgetting. But you didn't come here to be comfortable. You came here to be real. And realness is rare in a world full of illusion. The truth is, you will not always be understood. You will be judged, dismissed, even ridiculed. But every chosen one must face this trial. It's not meant to break you, it's meant to refine you, to strip away your need for validation, to teach you to trust your inner compass above all else. Because when you no longer need permission to be who you are, you become unstoppable, you become sovereign. And sovereignty is magnetic. It doesn't demand attention, it commands it, quietly, powerfully, without force. But don't mistake this path for isolation. While it may begin in solitude, it leads to connection, real connection, soul family, people who see you not just for what you do, but for who you are, people who speak your language without words, people who remember you not from this life, but from before. When you walk in your truth, you don't just find your mission, you find your people, your allies, your mirrors, and together you begin to build the new world, not by tearing down the old, but by outgrowing it, replacing its noise with clarity, its fear with love, its control with freedom. And yes, your mission will evolve, it will shift as you shift. Don't cling to one version of your purpose. Your only job is to stay aligned with your highest truth in each moment. Sometimes that will look like leading, other times it will look like listening, sometimes it will look like creating, other times resting. The mission is not about what you do, it's about what you carry. And you carry codes, frequencies, ancient wisdom that your soul has cultivated over lifetimes. You didn't come here to compete, you came here to remember. And through your remembering, you ignite the remembrance in others. So what does it look like to live as a chosen one in a sleeping world? It looks like saying no when everyone else says yes. It looks like trusting your intuition even when logic disagrees. It looks like holding compassion for those who attack you because your light triggers their shadows. It looks like forgiving yourself when you fall, getting back up again and again, not because you have to, but because you know there's more, because you remember why you came. And maybe you've forgotten that lately. Maybe you've been tired. Maybe you've been doubting. That's okay. Even lighthouses need maintenance. Even warriors need rest. But don't stay down. Don't stay dimmed. The world needs you now more than ever. Your presence, your wisdom, your frequency. Not tomorrow, now. Not when you feel ready, now. Because this is the moment we've been waiting for. Not a prophecy, not a messiah, you, ordinary and extraordinary, human and divine, wounded and whole. You are the bridge, the intersection of what was and what can be. And every step you take in authenticity sends ripples into the collective. Your healing becomes our healing. Your joy becomes a beacon. Your alignment becomes a map. So, I'll leave you with this. What would happen if you stopped waiting and started living like your existence was the answer to someone else's prayer? Because it is. Someone out there is waiting for your voice, your story, your courage, your light, and they won't remember who they are until you show them who you are. There are no more rehearsals. The mission is now, and you, chosen one, were born for this. Walk boldly, love deeply, shine relentlessly. The world is sleeping, but you are awake, and that changes everything.